Welcome to the Airbnb Roadmap, the podcast designed to navigate you through the entire journey of short-term rental success. Whether you're just starting out or ready to take your hosting game to the next level. My husband and I became super hosts within just months of launching our first Airbnb and have proudly kept that title ever since. With over 350 reviews and overall 4.95 star ratings, we picked up a hack or two I'm excited to share with you. In each episode, I break down the strategies, insights, and industry secrets that set profitable short-term rentals apart. From choosing the right property, understanding local regulations, and obtaining your listing to go beyond just the basics. I'm here to share everything you need to succeed. So if you're ready to map out your path to Airbnb success and unlock the full potential of short-term rentals, join me on the Airbnb Roadmap. Your journey starts here. Hey, I'm Brittany Wenninger, and thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Airbnb Roadmap. I will admit, I don't have a lot of updates for the property that Clay and I are purchasing, but I do have a couple updates about, just life in general. I am very pregnant right now. Fun fact, didn't know if you knew that or not, but I am, and we are actually renovating our nursery. So this is our very first baby. We are very excited about it. And we are having a little baby girl. So our nursery is turning out to be super cute. And it's funny, I show a couple of my friends, what we're doing. And they're like, oh my gosh, like you guys are going balls to the walls with this. I'm like, hell yeah. Like it's our little baby girl. It's our first one. Now our second one, I hope that we still go all out for their room. But who knows? I heard that when you have a second one, you just kind of let things slide, and then even the third one. So we'll see, but we are very, very excited. We just had the baby shower. We got to see all of our friends and family members, and it was a fun time. So super stoked about our 2025, not only in business with short-term rentals and real estate, but also our little growing family. Okay. So that was my little life update. Again, I don't know if I actually ever shared that on the Airbnb Roadmap or not, but if I didn't, then hey, you just found out. All right, so anyways, let's actually get into the episode, and this one is all about picking the right short-term rental, not for the market, but just like when you are about to tour a home, what do you look for? When it comes to short-term rentals, not all homes are actually created equally because you're not actually buying it to live in. You're buying it as an investment property. So picking the right property can make or break your success. And it's not all about the looks. It's about the location, the amenities, the layout, and even the zoning laws play a huge role in determining whether your property becomes a top performer or struggles to even compete with all the other people. Today, I'm breaking down all of this into little bite-sized pieces so the next time that you are touring a property, you know exactly what to look for. Let's start with the big one, location. A great home in a wrong area won't do much good. When viewing a property, you want to think about these key location factors. And I know that we've talked about location so many times on this podcast, but we're just going to do a little snippet of each one about what to look for, and then we'll move on to the good stuff. All right. So let's just talk about the attractions nearby. So what is actually getting people to your property? Is it a tourist spot? Is it a downtown location? Is it near a beach or hiking trails? What is getting people to that area? Now, some people, I will admit, they don't want to go to any of that stuff. They just want to go to somewhere rural and just stay in that little Airbnb hub of yours. And that's totally fine. But if you do go that route, make sure that there are so many amenities for your guests to actually do. And then that way they don't get bored at all. Now, going on to accessibility, is it easy to get to? I know one of our cabins is not the easiest. There's a lot of windy roads, and there's actually a steep private drive that's gravel, and some people do get stuck on this private drive. So for this part, we didn't really listen to what actually we know about, and it's not the most accessible, but just kind of keep that one in mind. Also, is this property near airport? Will it be really loud with planes going by, or is it near a highway? I know some business people, they love to be near airports or like a transit hub, but other people, they don't like that stuff. So that's another thing to keep in mind. And then lastly is generally the area. So is it very busy in the summer and dead in the winter? Is it very busy all year round? What's the vibe of the neighborhood? Is it, very trendy and kind of like boutique-y, or is it very modern and kind of like a sleek vibe? When you look at the property that you would like to purchase, try to think of what's your ideal clientele. What's your avatar? So if you are trying to purchase a cabin by a ski resort, your clientele is probably snowboarders, skiers, just anyone that loves winter. Now, obviously, you have to transition that look into the summer look, but overall, that's your clientele. And then also, is it going to be families, or is it going to be a big group of friends? So think about that when you are about to tour the property and figure out, what's my avatar? Who am I actually wanting to attract here? Are you knee-deep in renovations for your Airbnb and need a boost to keep you going? Look no further. Aloha has you covered with a clean, delicious protein bar that fuels your day without weighing you down. My husband and I are huge fans. Aloha protein bars are our daily go-to, especially when we're busy with projects. Unlike those protein bars that are literally just like candy bars that leave you feeling sluggish, Aloha plant-based protein bars are made from simple organic ingredients you can trust. Each bar tastes incredible and keeps us energized and ready to tackle whatever the day throws at us, renovations included. And guess what? You can get 20% off your first purchase with the code, the Airbnb Roadmap. That's 20% off feeling great and eating clean with Aloha protein bars. Head over to aloha.com and use the code, the Airbnb Roadmap today. These links are also in the show notes, so make sure to click on that and get your protein bars. Up next, let's talk about the property itself. Let's start with the layout. So here's what to look for. Some of these are very obvious, and some of these are like, oh, didn't even think about that. And that's why I'm here to help. So the number of bedrooms and bathrooms. More bedrooms and bathrooms often mean more guests and higher nightly rates. Is there enough space for the groups like this? Now, I like the 3-bed, 2-bath. That's just kind of my jam. Because when you do a 3-bed, 2-bath, you mainly have either one family or two families in there. When it kind of gets to 6, 7, 8 bedrooms, that is a lot of people in your Airbnb short-term rental. And that just kind of freaks me out because 1, parties. 2, obviously the cleaning rate will be higher, which I know does pass down to the guests, but still, like, you're still charging them. And then 3, I just feel like that when you have a larger group, they're a lot noisier. If there's any neighbors, that might stir up some issues in the future. So my bread and butter is 3-bed, 2-bath. If there's a property that's 4 bedrooms, cool, I'll still look at it. But honestly, any property that's like 5 bedrooms plus is kind of scarier for me. Now, I know that there are some people that like really love the 5-bedroom plus properties. Like they want as many people as possible in their properties to really jack up that nightly rate. And that's cool. Like that's their vibe. That's just not my vibe. And then also, like, when it comes to the layout of the house, are there big open areas to accommodate all these people? So when you have the 5-bedroom homes, is there a large area that like everyone can mingle and chit chat, or is it very closed off? One thing that Clay and I look at is the basement finished or unfinished? If the basement's not finished, you can definitely finish that off and then also have that as the community space of like, hey, let's shoot some darts. Let's, go on the pool table. Go on the pool table. Please don't go on the pool table. Let's play pool. There we go. And have that kind of like the game area in the basement. Also, the best part about basements is that usually there's, the poured foundation or block foundation or whatever foundation you have for that property. And that kind of creates a sound barrier that if there is kind of like a mini party going on with like music and all that stuff, the neighbors probably won't hear it as much as if it was on the first or second floor. Now, as for the outdoor space, is there a patio, balcony, or yard? Outdoor areas are a huge draw for guests, especially for families in large groups. When it comes to the backyard, though, make sure that one, it's more flat. If you are on top of a hill, it's going to be very hard to add any type of amenity to the backyard. Yeah, you could put let's say disc golf. Disc golf would be cool. You can also advertise that people can sled down the hill or ski or snowboard. Obviously, if there's a lot of trees, make sure that they know hey, cautious, there's trees. But you're really limited to the amount of amenities that you can actually do. So when it comes to the backyard, just kind of think about, okay, this backyard is flat. What can we do with a flat backyard? We can add a volleyball court. We can add a pickleball court. I know that one's really popular right now. We could extend the patio and put a hot tub. We can do so many things. Now, when it comes to balconies, though, make sure, and this is just the realtor in me, and I go to all of my property inspections, make sure that the balcony is actually secure and multiple people can go on the balcony and there's no fear that it's going to fall. Because how embarrassing would that be if you launch a Airbnb, people are dancing, jumping on the balcony, and then all of a sudden falls and someone records it. Now it's on the internet and your Airbnb is shut down. I know that's very extreme, but these are the things that I always think about because we have external cameras, but I don't know what happens at our Airbnbs sometimes. It's just one of those things. And obviously I hope that people aren't jumping and dancing on your balcony, because that means that you kind of have a party going on and you should probably shut that down. But you just never know. Lastly, when it comes to the layout, think about the parking. Now, parking is something that no one thinks about when they are purchasing their property, because that's just it's one of those things that, yeah, parking's parking, people will figure it out. Well, if you are advertising a 5-bedroom home and there's only enough parking for, let's say, 2 cars or 3 cars, and then other people have to park on the street and they have to actually pay for that parking on the street and all that shenanigans, that could be a huge turnoff. And then also, so many guests will either comment on it or ask you additional questions. Now, we don't want your guests to get a parking fee, obviously. So that's some things to think about of hey, guests, we actually only had 3 parking spaces. I know that we advertise for 12 to 14 people in this property, but please keep in mind carpooling. What you guys can do is park at a park and ride down the street. Everyone can get into one car and then drive to the property. I've seen that happen a couple times where hosts will actually suggest going to another parking lot, consolidating the cars, and then going to the property. Also, the township really likes that because if they see a house that has 10 cars outside of it and there's only 3 to 4 parking spots, that township is going to be oh, okay, something's happening at the short-term rental, and then they're going to investigate more. So other than the parking, let's not forget about the basics. Is the house actually in good condition? Are there any red flags? Some red flags are not actually red flags to me, to be honest, because I have seen it all. And it's just one of those things that, again, I go to all of my inspections for all of my clients, and I know a thing or two of what's actually important and what's not important. When it comes to a structural issue, obviously, that's a huge red flag. So when you go into a basement, and I love basements, and I know that's super weird, but basements, tell the whole story of the house, and it's kind of the history of the house. In a basement, you can see exactly what's happening. So keep in mind the foundation of the basement, or like the foundation of the home. Again, we're in Wisconsin, so we have stone and mortar, we have block foundation and poured foundation. I know in the southern states there is no basement, which is a pro and con, because like I have no idea how you guys store all of your stuff. Like our basement is packed full with just like furniture, Airbnb stuff. Like we have a gym in our basement. I don't know how you guys store any of your stuff. Like that's just bizarre to me. But anyways, when it comes to a foundation, stone and mortar, those are like the 1800s homes, early 1900s. And those are the type of basements that you don't really want to finish. You don't want to store anything like on the floor down there, because most of the time it's pretty like, I don't want to say the word moist, but I will. It's like, it's damp down there. Let's just say that. And things do kind of get moldy quickly. Now, people do get, a basement expert up in there and will actually finish the stone and mortar, and will actually put like paint over it and make sure that the stone and mortar is in place and all that good jazz. But that's a huge cost. Now, when it comes to block foundation, it's I don't really like it, to be honest. And whenever I see a house that has block foundation, I'm super skeptical, which is funny because the property that we're getting does have block foundation. And I told my husband, I'm like, hey, like this has block foundation. Don't fall in love with it just yet, because there's a lot of issues that could happen with this foundation. Some of the things is when you put your face on the wall in the basement, see if it's going up and down, if it's, leaning outward or inward. Those walls like to not stay vertical. And that's just because the house is settling. These houses are usually built in, let's say, like 1930 to 1970 is kind of like the common time frame that people were using block foundation. Also, look to see if there's any cracks. Like if there's cracks going down, let's just say like not actually on the block itself, but in the creases of it, that's just called crawling, not a huge deal. Again, still have a property inspector do it, like inspect the home and see what he says, but most of the time that's just kind of common. So that's block foundation. Then the last one is poured foundation. That's the foundation that we are in right now, like in our era right now. When it comes to poured foundation, 100% you can totally finish the basement and feel comfortable with that. When it comes to cracks, however, if you see a crack that is vertical, all good, it's a hairline, it's just settled a little bit. Now, when you see a crack that's horizontal, that is something to be a little concerned about, because that means that the house shifted left or right or whatever. The house just shifted, let's just say that. So again, you can still move forward, but just be very cautious and say like, hey, inspector, what's your actual thought about this horizontal crack? Do we need to have a basement professional in here to correct this? And that can add up to a lot of money. So just kind of be cautious of that. Now, those are the red flags. And honestly, the red flag is like, hey, the structure. Some yellow flags are mold. So if you see a lot of black mold, again, you can correct this, but one, hopefully you're handy and you can rip out the drywall and then, put fresh drywall in, make sure that all the mold's gone. And then also, if it's in the attic, that might cost you a pretty penny, but it's something that you can fix. Another one is a roof replacement. Roofs don't scare me, actually, because you can replace the roof. Yes, it's money, but if you are literally looking at a property, the numbers are great, and you're like, all right, numbers are great, property is great, but the roof needs to be replaced. It's going to cost you money, but I mean, a roof is a roof. You can just hire it out. Another thing is electrical and plumbing. So if you see that, like, let's say a sink is leaking, totally fine. You can fix that. If you see that the electrical, like all the outlets are the 2-prong, still, I wouldn't be worried. There's actually converters now that you can plug into the 2-prong outlets, and then we'll actually create a 3-prong with a grounding. So those are some of the items that I'm just, everything's fixable. Structure, like foundation, not really fixable. Now let's talk about the smell of the property too. If the property is smelling kind of bad, like cat and dog piss, sorry, that was kind of like a bad word, pee, cat and dog pee, I should say, or smells like cigarettes, you could get rid of that. You would probably have to replace the carpet because that's, carpet really soaks up a lot of those smells. So if you have carpet, you probably need to just replace that. And then you can get an ozone machine that pretty much sucks out the bad air and then brings in the fresh air. Also, painting all the walls will help dramatically with that smell. So if you walk into a property, again, great numbers, great property, but it just smells, don't just say no to it right away because you can totally fix that. Now, the more issues that are in the house, the less expensive it'll be. This is when you have to figure out, do I want to pay more money to get into a move-in ready home? Or do I want to pay less money, make the updates that I need to, and then go about it that way? It all depends on how much cash on hand you have. Because when you move into, and I say move like you're actually living there, when you purchase a home, and I shouldn't even say home, right? It's an investment property. So let's try this one again. All right. When you are purchasing your investment property, there we go. When you're purchasing your investment property, it all depends on how much cash you have. So if you have a lot of cash and you want the property to be cheaper because you have enough money to do all these renovations that actually need to happen instead of I want to, put wallpaper up and I want a hot tub and I want a sauna. Those are all the additional expenses. These are the expenses that need to actually happen. These are all the jobs that need to happen. So if you have a lot of money that you are willing to put into this property, I would definitely do the cheaper property. And then that way you are building instant equity, aka sweat equity. Now, if you don't have a crazy amount of cash to put into the property, then you might want to look into a, turnkey investment where you're literally just buying the property, putting the furniture in, and then calling it good. Now, you don't get sweat equity from it. So when you do the cash out refinance, might not be a huge chunk of money just like the other one, but at least you're still probably going to be appreciating. All right, how you doing? That was a lot of information, a lot of things to think about. And there are so many more items to look at when it comes to inspecting a home to purchase. For example, I didn't even mention the windows. I didn't mention the siding at all. There's a lot to think about, and that's a whole nother episode, but at least we kind of dived into the generalness of what to look at, and hopefully you're a little bit more all right, when I walk into property, this is what Britt said to, look for. Let's look for these items. But let's just kind of mosey on into the amenities. So the amenities, guests love the extras that make the stay memorable. When viewing a property, keep in mind for these 3 things: fully equipped kitchen, laundry, and strong Wi-Fi. For the kitchen, if you have a 5-bedroom home, I would hope that the kitchen is large enough to actually satisfy a 5-bedroom home. Sometimes this isn't the case. I just went to a property, literally they advertised 16 people will stay in this Airbnb. And there was just bunk beds after bunk beds after bunk beds in every single room. And they jam-packed all these people in this house. The kitchen, super small. And this is a property that's for sale. And I was like, hey, I wouldn't have this many people in this house because the kitchen is small. The common areas, they're not small, but they don't really fit 16 people comfortably. So keep in mind the size of the kitchen. Also keep in mind about it being fully equipped. So another property that I went into, and it's just funny, I go into so many properties, so I have so many examples of all this stuff. But another property I went into, it didn't even have an oven. It had a stovetop, it had a countertop stove, but no oven. And I was like, what the heck? Like, how does someone live without an oven? To add an oven, honestly, it would be a huge pain in the ass. Huge. Because then now you have to rip out the custom countertops, custom cabinets. You have to, just kind of like rearrange the whole kitchen. And I thought that was just absolutely bizarre because I'm like, all right, if you put this on Airbnb, people will want to have an oven. That's one of the big draws of having a short-term rental or even staying at one, is to be able to cook and not go out all the time. So that was mind-blowing to me. I was like, how do people live? Oh. Next one is the laundry facility. So is there a washer and dryer in the property? Now, if there isn't, it's not a huge deal. Hopefully there's a laundry facility nearby. But if your property doesn't have a washer and dryer, I would highly consider just getting one of the small ones, like the stackable ones, just so people have something to use, because they enjoy having, the ability to wash their clothes or towels. If they are there for, let's say, a week or two, they probably want to wash their towels. So the ability to actually do that is highly desirable. Last but not least, trugging along, is the strong Wi-Fi. This is something that no one thinks about, is Wi-Fi. And I will admit, for one of our properties, we lucked out. I didn't even think twice about the Wi-Fi. And we got lucky because there was actually fiber optic, and this was in the middle of nowhere. And I was like, oh my God, there's fiber here? That's wild. But the strong Wi-Fi helps you a lot because there's so many people that work from home now. And they don't actually work from home. They work from short-term rentals. So having a strong Wi-Fi and actually advertising that on your listing is so crucial, because people literally search for a strong Wi-Fi in the area. One way to figure out if that property does have a good Wi-Fi connection is calling the local internet providers like Spectrum, TDS. I would honestly just reach out to your real estate agent and say, hey, can you figure out the internet service, and then go from there. So there you have it. The key things to look for when viewing a home for short-term rentals. Remember, the perfect property isn't just about the looks. It's about the location, the layout, the amenities, and obviously the finances and the numbers. But the looks do matter, but you can jazz up your property with a professional designer. That isn't a big deal. If you found this episode helpful, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share with a friend who might be dreaming of their own short-term rentals. And if you have any questions whatsoever about short-term rentals or want to share a home buying story, please reach out to me on my social media. I love to hear from you guys, and I think it just kind of makes the podcasting world just so much better, especially with connections. So with that, I will see you guys next time. Thanks for joining me on the Airbnb Roadmap. If you're loving these episodes and want to keep the conversation going, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share this podcast with someone who's ready to dive into the world of short-term rentals. Got a question or topic you would love to hear about? Reach out. This podcast is all about learning and growing together. And don't forget to follow me on Instagram, the Airbnb Roadmap Podcast, for more tips, tricks, and behind-the-scene insights. Until next time, here's to turning your short-term rental dreams into thriving realities. I'll see you back here soon.